morning, everyone, and welcome back to the ICC Sustainability Conclave 2021. In this session, we have Ms. Neena Singh, who's the managing partner for ERM's India's operation and has more than 25 years of experience. She leads one of the largest technical teams in the country to respond to complex and challenging sustainability issues across sectors, including chemicals, pharmaceuticals, power, and mining. She has held various leadership roles, including leading ERM's work in relation to sustainable finance and impact assessment and planning. In 2011-12, she led a team that developed the Sustainable Development Framework for the mining sector for the Ministry of Mines, which has since then guided emerging laws and practices in the sector. The chemical sector has contributed significantly to ERM's business globally. Recently, ERM partnered with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development to work with global chemical companies to prepare a chemical sector sustainable development goals, the SDG roadmap. ERM continues to work as a trusted advisor to our clients, both in the government as well as private sectors, to shape a sustainable future. We at the ICC are indeed very grateful to her organization, and to her leadership for preparing a knowledge paper, which is extremely important, and we have uploaded it on our website, and that can be downloadable from there. And she's going to present in terms of her views that sustainability makes economic sense. So now we have Ms. Neena Singh before you, and kindly the mic and the floors were with you. And I must tell you, Ms. Singh is actually currently in Dhaka, and she's on an assignment there, and she's joining us from Dhaka. Very good morning, and welcome to you, Ms. Singh.
Thank you, sir. And, it's a privilege and, an honor to be a part of this session. We were there last year. The world has changed since then. And as I said, but I think limping back to normalcy, the fact that we are taking international flights and I'm sitting in Dhaka is an indication that, we are limping back to normalcy, and the world will only improve from now on, as long as we remain careful. So the initial the session was amazing because it kind of created the context of the thematic issues in front of the sector and the discussions that will take place in the next days. My job here out is to just give you a context of how the thematic paper is. What are the key issues that are going to be discussed, which are really core to the sector? From both its current performance, but also, exploiting the future opportunities. It's a short presentation, but I think we'll highlight some of the major issues that are already very succinctly highlighted in the inaugural session. Just let me know. I'm going to share my screen. Is this visible to everybody? Okay. So this makes business sense. Sustainability makes business sense is a very is a theme of the whole presentation, and we are going to try and see how the business risks as well as the economic opportunities lie in making sustainability core to the way the sector will operate in the future. In the future is already doing so, but also in the future. Just a context setting. In the surface, the chemicals industry looks good. There are opportunities. It was not hit by COVID as much as other sectors. Earnings and revenues have been stable and are perhaps looking at ramping up. But underneath, there are hidden pressures that are mounting. And I think I'm just quoting a US company here, which basically says that there were opportunities before there were these absolute major, booms in growth at certain levels. And I think we are now looking at a session or a stage or a milestone where there is a possibility of another ramp up in the growth of the sector. However, the sector has to be, and the industry has to be, in an operational readiness and adaptability and agility to respond to the evolving new realities. And I think that is core to the way that this discussion is going to be. How ready are we to address emerging issues to the sector and address emerging opportunities, and then be able to present a sustainable growth path for the sector. So what are the leaders talking about? We heard a group of leaders talk to us in the inaugural session, and really important points being made that while the global challenges are immense, the chemical sector has a unique capability and experience to partner in addressing some of those and then creating business opportunities, for example. So circular economy, and I think this is something that the sector has been always focusing on, discussing the recycle, reuse, innovation part of it. And basically, the regulations globally are changing so quickly that the need to quickly ramp up innovation and ensure that you are ready to address regulatory requirements, consumer pressures, and the investor's lens that is going to only increase and not decrease. So obviously, we've just highlighted some opportunities I think most of you are very familiar with, but there is increasing demand for clean water, there's increasing demand for fuel efficient cars, energy efficiency at housing, insulation materials. So none of this is possible without the innovation in the chemical sector. But of course, remember that regulations are catching up faster, and global pressures are increasing. Hence, the ability to address regulatory requirements as well as use the opportunities that are there in businesses tomorrow is going to be a very, very important aspect to be continuously looking from a business lens. Safety in supply chains, we've been talking about it, we've been hearing about it. I'm not sure how real it is already on the ground, but I'm sure we'll hear about it in the future. But with the opportunity, there also comes this whole issue of geopolitical factors, and the fact that when you bring supply chains here, there's also increasing scrutiny that you come under in terms of global supply chains and your procurer and the process of sourcing. And that means that we have to be able to disclose better. We have to be able to show data better. REACH is one such a global regulation that has changed a lot of the way the chemical sector operates, especially export-oriented ones. And the fact that we will be expected to perform to international standards to be able to enhance and take the opportunity of the supply chain shift that is potentially happening. And I think that is a really major discussion point in the post-COVID world. What about digitization? I think this is one theme that has come consistently across all the industries in terms of taking stock and then moving ahead in the new post-COVID world. The value of digitization, the collection of data, the ability to analyze and then use them to make decisions, enhance efficiency and productivity, these are going to be absolutely fundamental to the way business works. And why are we calling it sustainability? Because digitization is seen to be a core element of sustainability, where things that can be done efficiently without the use of resources, without the use of land, without the use of a lot of inefficient resources, those are the ones that have to be enhanced and replaced by data, by a digital world. And if you look at the Accenture chemical quote that is put there, 40% of chemical companies are using digital technologies to increase efficiency and already driving growth. But perhaps only 11% who are doing both have the highest performers, and that's a very low percentage. And there's an absolutely huge headroom to grow. And major industries are already looking at this opportunity of a 550 billion is one estimate in terms of how digitization could unlock opportunities for the sector. So why are we here today? I mean, I think in the midst of all the positive news, we have to recognize that the chemical sector is a huge resource guzzler in terms of energy, water. It also contributes significantly to the global GHG emissions. The fact that net zero emissions will require a fairly important, a very significant investment by 2050 by all industries, especially this sector. From an Indian context, it's important to understand that the laws are still catching up, but there are emerging indicators that there are new laws that will come in, will specifically impact the sector. There has been the fact that there's going to be potentially more integration, and potentially there is concerns raised by Pollution Control Board that chemical sector does not have a set of regulations that is typically for them, tailored to them. And the fact that there's a large number of hazardous use and that there's going to be hazardous waste every year, there's going to be always a challenge to meet capacities of existing hazardous waste facilities, creating new ones, and maintaining processes that ensures that these waste ash issues don't become liabilities to the assets. All these are very key to the chemical sector, and I think we should not lose context, because that's what is the underlying issues that have to be addressed. So how does the ESG fit into the sustainability narrative? And when you say environmental, social governance, and the sustainability, it's used interchangeably, but the ESG aspect is more used by the financial sector, while sustainability is used by companies. But I think they both are talking about the same key issues. So let's all recognize that sustainability has moved from a moral responsibility to a fiduciary responsibility. It's absolutely imperative that sustainability becomes a core part of business operations and not just a moral responsibility. And the factors that are clearly driving this are the climate crisis and the fact that there's going to be stringent reduction requirements very soon. And that there is a generation Z that is coming of age that has got a very discerning knowledge, is access to information, and they are deciding on aspects that we didn't decide on, our generations did not decide on, and that's a very important part of it. The low carbon transition of economies as well as businesses is now come to stay, and we are talking to even oil and gas companies that are looking to transition significantly. So I'm sure the chemical sector has to also understand and ramp itself up to be a part of this low carbon energy transformation, and that's an opportunity for us for the sector. And of course, being a part of the consolidated efforts to save ecosystems, because we cannot ignore the fact that the chemical sector does impact ecosystems, and there are global partnerships that are necessary to deal with the specifically sensitive biodiversity ecosystems, and the sector has to play a key role in that. So the heading of moral responsibility to fiduciary responsibility is very key. It's no longer a good to do. It has to be a part of the core business operations and strategy thinking. I'm not going to delve into this. I did bring this out only to show you that, like, when we talk about sustainability, we tend to focus on a few elements that is most comfortable to us. But remember, these are a complex set of integrated issues. From the environment, it's not just the environmental performance, but it's also the climate strategy. It is the reporting aspect. It is bringing the eco-efficiency aspect. The oft ignored part of the whole strategy, the S part, the social part, which is both from a sector perspective, is keeping people safe, people operating within the facility safe, but also communities outside safe. So the responsibility of ensuring that the sector works operates in a manner that the local communities and other stakeholders benefit rather than get adversely impacted. The issues around inclusion, ensuring there is a very diverse, increasing diversity in the sector, social reporting, stakeholder engagement. All these are very fundamental part of the of sustainability and the ESG aspects, and that tends to perhaps not be seen as something that you have to do additionally. And of course, the governance aspect, increasingly globally, and governance aspects include not just from the management aspect, but also corporate governance, the legal aspects, the anti-crime, ABC issues, supply chain management, tax strategies. So these are all integrated. And a good management is seen to be the ones that kind of look at all these aspects with equal priority. I've often heard, and I think this may be a reality, that the chemical sector always struggles to get investments. And it needs investments. It's an MSME sector dominated, MSME scale dominated sector. And there's always a need for funds, international as domestic, to innovate, to grow. And that's where we've always seen that the sector is woefully underfunded globally and is not able to attract as much fund as it would like to. We work a lot with the financial sector. And increasingly, they remember that the global investment community is perhaps driving the new agenda for ESG and sustainability also, because they are under huge scrutiny. ERM works a lot with the global investors, and we did a survey recently of them. And some of the data that you're seeing is that 93% focus on ESG and believe it generates good investment opportunities. 64% have mature systems internally to see how they see ESG as adding value and reducing risks in their investment decisions. 77% anticipate some form of ESG disclosure and investor queries in the future. And there's a threefold increase in the perception that ESG is a positive contributor to the exit multiples. This is specifically for PE funds, which means that the theme of this session is sustainability means economic sense. And this is nothing a better demonstrator that investors will put in money where they see economic sense, but also see that ESG and sustainability adds value to their investments. And hence, these two come together to say sustainability does make economic sense. In terms of their portfolio companies, the companies in which they invest in, they see that ESG as a strategic vision of the promoters and owners are seen to be value accretive, which means add value. They're moving from just due diligence and compliance to best practices to looking at the future opportunities rather than just the risks today. And they're trying to see whether companies can become ESG strong during the investment cycle and that the assets become sustainable during the investment and even while they exit. So this is perhaps a very key part of seeing the sector seeing itself in a global transition, and the fact that it needs to attract global funds to be able to grow in the way and innovate in the way that is required of the sector. So just picking up the few themes, and addressing climate change is going to be requiring tangible actions at every facility level, at a corporate level, and of course at a country strategy level where chemical sector is a key stakeholder. The change to low carbon economy is inevitable. It's happening in the scale and the speed that we're not comprehending. Alternate resources and sustainable chemistry is very, very core to this sector. Making better products which make positive human impacts is going to be a great demand for the sector. Circular economy for product stewardship and sustainability is going to become regulatory driven as well as consumer driven. Digitization is going to increase efficiency and continuity and has to become a core imperative for the sector. The evolving ESG regulations, especially around soil and groundwater contamination and liabilities, and the stronger role that agencies like the NGT are playing, which means that the sector cannot just be at the lowest common denominator of meeting regulations, but has to start looking at future regulations and how it prepares itself for it. And of course, the shift to the global chain, which has both its opportunities as well as challenges. If you look at the climate change risk, it is very much the physical risks, the transition drivers, the legal liabilities that are going to come up, and the reputational issues. Again, this slide just tells you that there is business imperative that we start looking at climate change. So there's going to be increasing operating costs. There's going to be capital upgrade requirements. There's going to be market shifts and demand shifts. There's going to be technology disruptions, supply chain disruptions. There could be assets that are stranded. So these are all access to capital, litigation damages. These are all factors that will become a major things to consider as a part of the climate change strategies of companies. And these are going to be increasingly relevant. And finally, I just picked up the fact that Mr. Mishra just talked about the SDGs and the fact that we have prepared the WBCSD. We worked with WBCSD and the chemical sector globally to look at what are the sustainable development goals globally to which the sector can contribute. And we identified basically these five 10 key themes, of which food, water, people, health, energy, infrastructure, and cities were the key ones that on which it was identified that the chemical sector can play a key role. And of course, it means you have to innovate in terms of products, in terms of processes, and in terms of partnership. So products to address challenges that lack viable solutions today, processes to improve the sector, the way sector operates, and there are issues with it, which is why there's a constant focus on improvement of sustainability performance in sectors, and of course, partnership to have to create collective solutions. The energy opportunity, I'm just picking up two themes, energy and water. And there are estimates that by 2030, the solutions provided by the chemical sector can reduce emissions by a significant amount to 2.5 gigatons carbon dioxide equivalent per year, which is equal to the total emissions of these 3-4 countries combined. And that energy saving by the chemical products can double the energy, can be double than the energy it requires to manufacture. So it's a plus if the chemical sector can actively contribute to energy savings. So the sector is already playing and has to start looking at innovating and providing, investing in accelerated energy efficiency in its operations, own operations and downstream sectors, enable innovations in production, storage of renewable energy. It's an area that is going to become I have been told $12 trillion economy opportunity to actually invest in storage, energy storage, and improve renewable energy in its own process. The proportion of renewable energy in its own process is very, very key. And the second is water, that the sector can drive innovation and water resilience in the world, which is going to be a key challenge for the world, already is. So, the piping systems, reducing water losses through transportation, innovating urban water treatment supply systems, prioritizing reduction in water use and water stewardship in its operations, and of course, work with others in the value chain to address issues, global issues like the ocean plastics, aquatic waste. I'm just picking up these as just few of the opportunities that are going to create business opportunities for the sector tomorrow. And it's no small wonder that chemical is seen to be the place to invest, but it's also to be understood that the sector needs a revamping of its sustainable performance to be able to provide assurance to the world. That's the sector that starts looking at its own performance, its impact, and then contributes meaningfully to the global challenges. So really, in this whole curve that you're saying when you're talking about the road ahead, and some of the sessions will discuss this, figure out where you are in this curve. Are you at the lowest level that's just talking about compliance, or are you moving up towards looking at future risks, risk proofing? Or are you looking at the growth seekers and become the vanguards of this sector? I think that's a thing that the sector has to make in the next few days and moving forward in a post-COVID world. Thank you and good luck. And I hope you all have a very good discussion and that the thematic paper that we prepared in partnership with the ICC is useful and provides guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singh, for giving such a broad picture in terms of how the chemical industry is doing right now, its challenges, the versatility, and the opportunities. Indeed, the Indian Chemical Council, by tying up with the International Council of Chemical Associations and promoting responsible care, the Chemical Council wants the chemical industry to be regulatory plus. We always want to move ahead in terms of the regulations that are coming forward. Of course, the chemical industry is also looking to lots of technology to become more sustainable, even in terms of carbon, to move from what they say carbon C to V, from carbon to value, the way nitrogen is captured to put into our crops and then into our body, as it was mentioned in the morning, that is to really capture carbon from the atmosphere and make products in terms of car foams and others and things like that. So there are technological challenges, but the Indian chemical industry is very versatile, very committed, as you can see, as all our members can see, and we look forward to working together to indeed make our chemical industry even more sustainable and integrate that sustainability makes economic sense. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.